What's going on, guys? It's Element here, and welcome to the second off-season video. So today we're going to be talking about a team that is a bit closer to home for me. So obviously you know of all of the releases, all of the free agents, all of the retires from this past week, and there'll be another one coming out at some point at the end of this week, going over all of the releases and such. But I wanted to today to focus on the London Spitfire because they actually announced their roster changes going into the 2022 season. So as you know, a lot of teams are pretty much ditching a lot of the players that just weren't working for them. Um, and London are no different. They have kept a couple of players, which is an improvement for Cloud9 in how they respond to not having the most successful season. So as you know, London have been on a downward path since winning in season 1. But without any further ado, the London Spitfire have parted ways with several of their members. So starting off, the tank line has been released. So that's Hardy, that's Morphig, which Hardy doesn't come as much of a surprise to me. He wasn't the greatest of main tanks. He can't say fan about himself out of position. He'd fire strike pretty much nothing. His timing and synergy with the team was always seemed to be a little bit off. And that's okay. Um, if you're in contenders at least, like you can work on that and you can make these mistakes in tier two because it's tier two. But if you're in the Overwatch League, you're gonna get exposed and you're gonna get called out time after time, and that's what just happened with him. As for Mo, that was something that I was not expecting. So Morphig for me has been probably the third best player we've had all season, if not top two. The other two I'll get on to later, but Morphig has been a really good diamond in the rough that we've gotten into the team from obviously the academy team. He's had a really good Sigma play, really good Diva player. His Diva play has been pretty good. It's probably the reason why Hardy has been alive for as long as he has in a lot of team fights. Obviously, Morph then goes and peels for him, and vice versa. He can then keep him alive with defense matrix. But then at the same time, Morph having to go and peel for his main tank means that he can't keep the supports alive. So there was a lot of issues with this team this year that just couldn't get ironed out. But I really think we should have kept Morph at least. But I can understand to a certain extent. Like if you can only choose a specific amount of players that you want to keep, then the players that we kept and the coaching staff that we kept, it's yes. But moving over, we then lost Hybrid. So Hybrid has been in and out of the Spitfire roster all year. He was most prominent in the melee, obviously because Sparker wasn't of age yet. And then he didn't really play as soon as Sparker came in. He kind of was just on the bench. He's been more of a contender as a tier 2 British Hurricane player who has been really good in contenders and did not look very good in the Overwatch League. So he's been released. He will finish this week's tourney of contenders, the October tourney with Hurricane, and then he's a free agent. So yeah, that kind of was expected. He was kind of dead weight on the team. We could fill up free up a few wage bills, whatever, how have you. Um, and then finally for players at least, so we have Reaper and Canucks being released. Now, going into the season, everybody was saying that Canucks was going to be the weak link in the team, and what would you know, he was the weak link in the team. So lot of team fights. There's gonna be a lot of this analysis coming up in our season review that myself and Joe are making for the Spitfire. But in a lot of situations in most team fights, Canucks just couldn't. He was half a mile behind everybody else's Lucio. He was on healing when he should have been on speed at times, and it just screwed over a lot of the engages that the Spitfire would have. His passiveness, it doesn't even make up for healing because most of the time we're dying in a lot of team fights where we shouldn't be. So he wasn't the best main support, and he's been consistently the weakest link on every single team he's been on. Whether it's the Valiant, whether it's the Defiant. So yeah, it makes sense that we released him. Reaper has been a decent flex support. Hasn't been the best. Obviously, he and Canucks were always the first two dying in most team fights. So they didn't have the best synergy, but his bat play was pretty decent. It was serviceable. I wouldn't say it was the best, but you know, what can you do? We've released him now, and hopefully we can get in some better main support and a better support duo going into Overwatch 2. Then we had a couple of staff releases. So we had the release of our head coach Fisher. So obviously Fisher came in at the start of the season, or sorry, halfway through the season after the original head coach left. He came in at the end of May, so it was understandable. Some of his tactics didn't work out the best, so we then released him. But he did have a lot of reputation coming behind it, so it's kind of surprising that it didn't work out. But it is what it is. We've ended up having to release him, and obviously everybody who's been released, nothing but the best of luck wish to you in whatever you go and do next. But um, there is some good news in all of this bad news that has happened. So obviously, you can probably tell from the people that I haven't mentioned in this video, but there are two people that we've kept, two players that we kept, and two coaching staff members that we kept. So the two players that we kept obviously are Sparker and Shax, and now that doesn't surprise me that they've decided to keep Sparker and Shax. They have been consistently the best players. I mean, if you watch Shax towards the end of that season, the man was determined to carry London to a victory. I mean, we almost beat the field clearly on the back of Shax, and then Sparker has been such a good addition to this team. I mean, any point that he played, you could tell he instantly brought something to the team. And it really helped in a lot of team fights. His Tracer play, his Hanzo play, his McCree play especially have all been phenomenal. So I'm not surprised that we kept those two. And then we've kept Commander X and our coach, Coach Spilo. So we kept something from last year. We kept the best bits from last year, and we're going to go and rebuild going into this year. As for who we're going to pick up, there are quite a few EU talents that are on the market right now. Whether or not we have the money to make an offer is a different thing, but I think that we can. Going over as well, one more release we had, also released Blase, which doesn't surprise me again, because obviously Blase, he hadn't had the best of seasons. He was probably the weaker spot of that Houston Outlaws team from that season, who again didn't really do that well. So picked him as a free agent. He wasn't the best free agent, and we got rid of him, so that's fair enough. Blase wasn't really the best flex DPS that we've ever had, so it does not surprise me that he's gone. So, quickly wrapping up, touching on some of the players that we could possibly pick up. Like I said, there's plenty of players that are on the market right now. There are players like Poco, there are players like Funny Astro. I mean, if Fusions didn't reply, Fusions could have been a good main tank option. I mean, there's also the Academy players. They could promote Liquids, they could promote Health. They could promote Finzi as an off tank, Sky Ripper. So there are so many different players from the Hurricane that could have promoted up, but I think from after learning from this season, I think we should have a few more experienced members in this team and have more of a balance. And not only actually pay some money for some players instead of just picking up off of free agency, because I think we should do what Paris did last season, have one all-star DPS player or one all-star player that we can build around. Shax is obviously that for now, but I think we should have at least one more, so there's not just Shax being the veteran voice on the team. Maybe a support or a tank to build around. Obviously Poco would be perfect for that because he's had experience since season 1, so I really think we should pick up Poco. Whether or not we will is a different story. I think Paris are more likely to pick him up. But yeah, I think we need another piece of experience on a different role, and then we need to build around that and maybe interject some free agents with some of the contenders team, and then maybe even open up to not just being Western. We could go mixed and have a multitude of different players. I mean, heck, if we went mixed, we could pick up Jexa, who's on the free agency right now. There are a lot of different players that we could pick up. We could pick up Pine. We could pick up Kalios. We could pick up any of that New York Excelsior team that just got released. I mean, we could pick up any of the Florida Mayhem team. There are so many more options if the Spitfire weren't so adamant on the Western talent thing. Which, yes, I get it. It's admirable going in and saying, okay, we're going to highlight what the best of Europe can show. But I think there gets to a point where you need to have some Asia talent, because obviously Asia is the most popular region for Overwatch. It's somewhere got some of the best players, and just ignoring that completely is stupid. I don't think we should do it anymore. No, even after last season, the Paris Eternal aren't even trying it anymore, so I don't think we should. continue with this. I think that we should go mixed. And yeah, those are my thoughts overall on the releases for the London Spitfire. When they make some more announcements, I will do a video then and see and give some reactions to what I think of them. But if you've enjoyed this video, please obviously do hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!